Power begets power, and wealth begets wealth, but neither guarantees joy. Indeed, as we will reveal today, the accumulation of billions often exacts a terrible price from those who never asked to be born into such fortune. Thus, these are not merely tales of poor little rich children. They are chronicles of human frailty, revealing how the very fortunes meant to liberate their inheritors often become the instruments of their confinement, and sometimes their destruction. At the height of his power, J. Paul Getty could buy almost anything on earth. His oil empire spanned continents, his art collection rivaled museums, and his Tudor estate boasted 72 rooms filled with priceless treasures. Yet he installed a payphone for guests in his mansion, refusing to pay for their calls. This paradox, astronomical wealth paired with pathological frugality, would define not just Getty's life, but the tragic dynasty he created. While he meticulously accumulated the largest private fortune in history, his family unraveled. Sons succumbed to substance abuse and despair, a grandson lost his ear to kidnappers, and the Getty name became synonymous with gilded misery. Thus, in today's episode, we'll take you through the full story of how the world's wealthiest man built an empire that made him a king, but left him dying alone in a castle full of treasures he could never truly enjoy, as we recount the Getty family curse, how America's oil fortune became Hollywood tragedy. In 1957, J. Paul Getty opened Fortune magazine to find himself crowned the richest man in America. The irony wasn't lost on him. He read this news from his Tudor estate in England, where he'd chosen to live as a virtual exile from the country that had made him wealthy. The massive estate, Sutton Place, built in the 1530s, stood as a testament to both his wealth and his increasing isolation from American society. Getty had built his fortune through a combination of ruthless business acumen and extraordinary timing. During the Depression, when others were selling, he was buying, snapping up oil companies at bargain prices. His father had laid the foundation in the Oklahoma oil fields, but Paul transformed that modest success into an empire that spanned continents. Unlike his contemporaries who inherited vast fortunes, Getty started in the oil fields, learning the business from the ground up. His father, George Getty, had initially resisted Paul's vision for expansion, preferring to keep their operation modest and manageable. But Paul saw something bigger, a future where oil would power not just automobiles, but the entire modern world. Getty's first major triumph came in 1916, when he struck oil in Oklahoma's Tulsa County, turning a $500 investment into his first million at age 24. This early success shaped his business philosophy, careful investment combined with bold action when opportunity arose. He meticulously studied geological reports and industry trends, building his expertise in the oil business from the ground up. His personal life, however, proved more challenging than his business ventures. Married and divorced 5 times, father to 5 sons by 4 different women, Getty increasingly focused on his business dealings and art collecting. His first marriage to Jeanette Demont lasted from 1923 to 1926, setting a pattern of personal relationships that would be repeated throughout his life. The contrast between his business success and personal struggles became increasingly apparent as his wealth grew. While Getty Oil expanded across the globe, securing lucrative rights in Saudi Arabia that would multiply his fortune many times over, his family relationships became increasingly complex. He maintained contact with his children primarily through letters and phone calls from his English estate. From Sutton Place, Getty managed his empire with careful attention to costs that sometimes bordered on frugality. The famous payphone he installed for guests became a symbol of his complex relationship with wealth, a billionaire who believed strongly in watching every dollar. Yet this same man built one of the world's greatest private art collections, though always with an eye for value and investment potential. His art collection represented more than just an assemblage of beautiful objects. It was a legacy he hoped would endure. Each carefully chosen piece reflected both his taste and his business acumen, as he often managed to acquire masterpieces at surprisingly reasonable prices through clever negotiation and timing. But as the 1960s dawned, Getty's empire stood at its apex. His wealth had grown to unprecedented levels, making him the richest private citizen in the world. None could have predicted the dark shadow that would soon engulf his family, turning their vast wealth into a curse that would echo through generations. The price of creating such an empire would be paid not by its architect, but by those who inherited its burden. The story of the Getty sons unfolded against the backdrop of America's post-war boom, when their father's wealth had reached heights that seemed almost mythological. But money, as each would discover, offered no protection against personal demons, and sometimes seemed to attract them instead. George F. Getty II, the eldest son, bore the heaviest expectations. Born in 1924 to J. Paul Getty's first wife, Jeanette Demont, George entered a world already shaped by the weight of the Getty name. Intelligent and hard-working, he served in World War II before joining Getty Oil. Unlike his father's other sons, George embraced the oil business, displaying an aptitude that suggested he might one day take over the empire. The relationship between father and son was complex. J. Paul Getty respected George's business acumen, but maintained the same exacting standards he applied to everyone in his organization. Their correspondence revealed a formal relationship filled with discussions of business matters, but little personal warmth. George worked diligently to prove himself worthy of the Getty name, taking on increasing responsibilities within the company. Eugene Paul Getty, later known as John Paul Getty Jr., chose a dramatically different path. Born in 1932 to J. Paul Getty's third wife, Adolphine Helmley, Eugene Paul initially worked for the family business, managing Getty Oil's Italian operations. However, by the 1960s, he had embraced the counterculture movement that was sweeping Europe. Eugene Paul's second marriage to Talitha Pohl in 1966 marked his complete break from the corporate world his father inhabited. Talitha, a model and actress of Dutch extraction, became an icon of 1960s style. Their palazzo in Rome became a gathering place for artists, musicians, and European nobility. The couple embodied a new kind of aristocracy, one that merged old money with bohemian sensibilities. J. Ronald Getty, born in Berlin on the 19th of December 1929, to J. Paul Getty and his fifth wife, Anne Rourke, maintained a lower profile than his brothers. He chose to forge his own path outside the family business, though he remained involved in family matters, particularly during the later crises that would engulf the Getty name. Gordon Peter Getty, born on the 20th of December 1933, also to J. Paul Getty and Anne Rourke,